Okay, everyone, I'm going to give you a little tutorial on what copper to melt, what copper to just turn in as is. Basically, there are many different types of copper, but you have to know what your scrapyard does accept, whether if they accept ingots or not, or what they consider bright and shiny. But I'm going to give you just a rundown of what I do when it comes to melting down copper. So first things first, what you do not need to melt down is solid core wire, and that is this right here. Solid core wire is going to be considered bright and shiny. Now, if it is patinaed or dull, dirty, something like that, go ahead and melt it down. It's not worth cleaning up. Just go ahead and melt it. But see, this is freshly peeled, so no patina, no dirt, no anything. So that can just be turned in as is. It is going to be worth the same price as melted copper. This is what solid core copper looks like in wire form. Stuff like this, they are extremely easy to peel. It's fast and easy. It is by far the best form of copper when it comes to just making straight money. Now, the other ones you can just turn straight in is this garbage. This was all from my old TV and that I tore apart. And you see these wires right here. While yes, this is copper, it's too small to worry about. It's too much hassle, and you just turn these wires in as is. Now you say, "Oh, that's a thick wire," but if you look at the core of it, it is. See if I can get in where you can actually see it. Maybe the core is a bunch of tiny wires in there. So again, that's really not worth peeling all that. So you just turn that in. You'll get half price for turning in wire with insulation on it. And here's more. And these are mostly like fiber optic, used for internet and cameras and stuff. Same thing with these. It has a solid core in there, but it's really, really tiny. I know you can't really see it. And then if I can get really close, but the camera's blurring. There's a tiny solid core piece of wire in there, and then surrounding it is a piece of insulation. Then it has this other insulation. This wire is a lot like coaxial cable. Coaxial cable is the absolute worst. It has a thin copper sheath over it with, well, it has insulation, copper sheath, thick insulation, then solid core wire. It is just not worth doing at all. And then, yeah, here's just what those wires look like when they're pulled out of the insulation. See, you would have to peel each one of these tiny wires, and it's just not worth the time. So if you come across this, unless you just want to do it, I wouldn't worry about peeling it. Just turn it in as is. Now we come to the stuff that needs to be melted. Now, piping, if it is completely new, bright and shiny, hasn't been used, which, you know, you're not going to come across piping from scrap that has been, you know, it's brand new. That's super rare. It can be turned in if it's completely new, no patina, no dirt, no markings or anything. It can be turned in as bright and shiny, and you'll get the same price as the solid core wire. But general rule of thumb for me, any type of piping or any type of copper pieces, anything like this, they are going to be melted down no matter how they look, because they're going to be dirty or have some type of patina on them. I mean, this is close to being able to be turned in, but you know, I'd still melt that down. You can see it, this is dirty. Now this one looks great until you look on the inside, and let's see if I can get it up to the light. You can't really see, but the entire inside of it is patinaed, so you can start to see in that a little bit, and it's dirty, so that's something that'll have to be melted down. Here's another one. It's filled with dirt, just absolutely filled with dirt. Very, very important. Whenever you are doing piping, get the dirt out. Try to get them as clean as possible, because it will totally destroy what you're doing. If you put it in there with dirt, it blows up. I mean, the melted copper in there completely blows up. So there's also some piping, old air conditioned piping may have corrosion on the inside, so you always want to try to you know, tap it and dump it out and make sure there's no corrosion in there. Just pretty much make sure your pipes are clean-ish before you do it. If not, it can be very, very dangerous. You want to have most of the dirt off and out. Also, you want them dry. You don't want to have, and this goes without saying, you don't want to put anything wet into your furnace, because it causes it to just blow up. Also, you don't want to put anything sealed. So like if this pipe was sealed up on both ends, like welded together and soldered, you would want to open it up, because that trapped air will all of a sudden explode, and it will make your copper just shoot out to the ceiling. Very dangerous. So that's a few things to remember. When we come to braided wire, so all braided wire, no matter what it is, you need to melt it down, because it is considered type 2 and below. So anything below bright and shiny or type 1, needs to be melted down. This right here, you say, well, that's not copper. Actually, it is. It's called tinned copper. Tinned copper is used in electronics or any other type of wiring that needs to be close to electricity, and needs to be prevented, corrosion needs to be prevented. So what it is, it's copper coated in a light coat of zinc or tin, which hence the name. And you can see these braids, any type, even with these thicker braids, you still want to melt them down. But going back to tin copper, this burns off completely. The zinc or the tin will completely burn off, and it'll melt down as pure copper. You look at here's another one, kind of a thicker braid, but you still want to melt it down. No matter how bright and shiny this is, braided copper like this is still considered type 2. Even coming down to stuff like this. This looks just wow, but it would still be considered type 2, even that, because it has a thick braid. Now you look at something like this. This is completely patinaed, so that would need to be melted. So these right here definitely need to be melted. Melted all down. Here's some more pipes. I've split this in half, because see how dirty this is? That would need to be melted down, but this was actually the other half of that pipe, but it's fairly clean and could pass to be turned in as type 1 bright and shiny copper. I just don't take my chances. I just go ahead and melt down all piping. Now here's some more stuff that came out of the TV. If it comes from the inside of a device and it's copper, almost 100% you're going to want to melt it down, because it's usually coated in some type of chemical. Some other type of impurity, or something like this, something like that. And any type of copper, whether it comes from like little transistors or you know, things on circuit boards. This came from, I forget, it's like the tube of the TV. And you know, you see it still has all that glue and black plastic stuff on it. So, and it's still really stiff because of the glue that was put into the copper. So all that needs to be burned off, and this copper actually is impure, and it creates a lot of black smoke and a lot of dross, which this does too. I bet you're saying like, oh my God, that's awesome. No, this came from the inside of a TV, and it is coated in something. I don't know what it is, but it makes this noxious black smoke whenever it's melted, and it creates so much dross that I need to clean out my crucible before and after the pour. So that while this is still good, you still want to melt it down. You definitely want to be careful when you're melting it. You want to do it in small pieces because it creates this awful black smoke. Same with this type stuff. Do it in small pieces, and it creates a lot of dross. Now, you might be able to get by with turning this in as bright and shiny. Most scrap yards are going to know that this is not bright and shiny. That's kind of trash copper. But you might be able to get away with it. Now, talking about scrap yards, we're going to talk about ingots. If your scrap yard accepts ingots. Oh, wait. I want to show you this braided copper. This is from a power cord. And this is what most braided copper looks like. This is about the size of it. So you'll see this a lot in regular old power cords. But yeah, definitely want to melt that down. Going back to ingots, you want to find out if your scrapyard accepts ingots and if they know what the hell they're talking about, because sometimes people are just morons and don't know what they're talking about. If you take a look at this ingot, it has some different coloration. It's not quite the bright copper color. It's got the little bit darker rosy color. It's got some black oxidation in there, everything like that. That's fine, because this copper has been pured by melting it down, and there's no impurities in it. And you can see where I started to shine it up, where I'm taking the oxidation off, and you see right there at the top where it's that bright and shiny copper, and then down below it's kind of that duller color. And you can see up here where I've done half of it, it's this bright and shiny, and then it gets dull. Same thing with this. So that black, that's oxidation. That comes right off with a brush. Discoloration, pink color, that's the normal color of copper when it's first melted. So if you have morons at your scrapyard, they're going to be like, oh no, we can't take that, that's burned. Which makes no sense whatsoever to have burned copper turning and burned whatever. I've actually had that happen. But if they see this and they're like, no, this is low quality copper, go ahead and take a brush and just shine them up real quickly and then turn them in, and you'll get priced for bright and shiny. So that's a basic rundown of the types of coppers and what to melt down, and what to just turn in as is. If y'all have any questions, please let me know.